Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Today TV. I'm Sakshi Batra and this is Market Today, a show where we'll help you understand the closing action on the D Street, starting from the benchmark index moves to sectoral action and all the stocks that are buzzing in trade. We'll also get you views from the experts on the markets, especially the primary markets as well, and find out which way should your funds be tilted. With the sell-off continuing for the sixth consecutive session on the secondary markets, is it time now to shift focus on the primary markets, especially right ahead of Diwali over the next 15 days? Several of the IPOs are lined up to hit the street. So will that space give you a better opportunity to earn more money in this current somber markets in the secondary market? That's something that our focus will be. But first up, a quick check on how the markets are doing at this point in time. Like I pointed out, the sixth consecutive days of fall is what we have seen. The Nifty today is trading 250 points lower in trade at 18,872. So that's another level that you're looking at. We've reached the 19,000 mark and we've now also slipped below the 18,900 mark as well. Look at the Nifty Bank. That's seen a sharper fall, 512 points of a fall for this one. The Sensex has lost on an intraday level 900 points as well. Remember, over the last 6 trading sessions, we've also seen the Nifty actually slip almost 3.8%, or 1,000 points has been lost from the Nifty over this last 6 days alone. We've also seen that the Sensex in the meanwhile has lost about anywhere between 3,000 points as well. And in this carnage, we've seen several of the sectors that had been performing very well come under pressure. The PSU banks, for example, is one of the biggest losing sectoral index in today's trade. It's lost anywhere between 2.8% right now. It's actually pulled up in the last 15-20 minutes odd. It's now 1% down in trade. So some recovery happening right there. But still, several of the sectors are down in trade. Let's look at the top laggards in trade today. Stocks like M&M, stocks like Tech Mahindra had been the biggest laggards through the trading session. And you can see now Bajaj Finance over 3.5% down in trade. M&M top of the charts as far as the losing action is concerned, 4% down in trade. UPL, Nestle, Bajaj Finserv, the heavyweight counters, Bajaj Twins definitely contributing to this decline. You also have Adani Enterprises that's not just lost 2.5% today, but also over the last 6 days odd, we've seen Adani Enterprises crack about 8.5%. In fact, along with it, the Adani Group stocks, all of them have also come under pressure in trade as well. Apart from this, we've also seen several stocks from the F&O basket also lose ground. But time to welcome our guest on the show. Mr. Avinash Gorakhshakar joins in, Director Research at Profit Mart Securities. Welcome, sir, and thank you so much for taking the time out. First up, help us understand, what do you make of this consistent fall over the last 6 trading sessions, the biggest fears for the market right now, and where is the bottom placed for this current fall?
Yeah, I think good afternoon, Sakshi. I think clearly one of the key reasons I think for this fall to happen is because liquidity outflow by the FIs has been quite significant. In fact, yesterday there was an outflow of almost 4,000 crores. We believe that today also there could be a big sell-off from the FIs. So I think as long as the dollar remains strong, the rupee remains weak, you're going to see a lot of huge outflow. Plus, with bond yields touching almost 5%. There is no incentive for the FIs to pump in new money in the Indian equity markets. So I think the first reason for the fall has been liquidity. A lot of money, foreign money, is going out of the Indian equity markets. The second is, I think, fears of inflation are yet unabated. I think with crude prices ruling around $90 a barrel, plus the second quarter numbers which have come out in the corporate earnings season have not been fully up to the kind of market expectations. We have seen many companies, which have reported a drop in profits, compression in margins. So I think that is clearly a worrisome sign. And I think now in the month of November, Sakshi, we'll have 5 state elections going, all out. So I think the markets are getting jittery just ahead of the elections. But I think as long as the global, headwinds don't subside, like typically this has been seen in the IT sector, very poor numbers coming from Tech Mahindra plus most of the large IT majors. So I think as long as the domestic, export markets don't do well, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty, at least for the near term. And I think this will continue for some time. My sense is we could see another 150 points fall if 18,000, 19,870 is not maintained today. But definitely, I think the markets look weak. And I think if you even look at the SIP flows, the domestic fund buying, I think despite that, if the markets are falling, it clearly means that there are a huge number of sellers, especially in the small and mid cap category. Today, the mid cap index is down significantly. Banking stocks are down. So I think markets are probably in panic mode and expect some further sell-off. Our advice to investors is that now is a time to actually do a little bit of good cherry picking, look at good quality companies, and I think invest for the longer term, because these kind of falls are always a part of the game. I think market goes up, market comes down, but I think you need to be in the market for the longer term. So I think investors who missed the bus earlier can definitely think of accumulating some good quality stocks from the secondary market.
Okay, understood that. But the other trend that everybody is watching out for is the consistent announcement of the IPOs that are slated to be listed on the D Street. Investors are expecting a Diwali bonanza, even at this point in time when the markets are actually not doing too well. The big question then in the mind of investors is that is it time to shift focus out of the secondary market and perhaps look at the primary market space for perhaps better opportunities? We've just heard Mama Earth's parent company Honasa announce the price band for their upcoming IPO that will be open for subscription on October 31st. We already have Blue Jet Healthcare that's already underway, the IPO. Then about almost a dozen companies are in fact expected to raise almost 15,000 odd crore rupees in the run up and post Diwali as well. Some of the notable companies would be Cello World, Fed Bank Financial. You also have DOMS Industries, Ask Automotive, FinCare Microfinance, Flair Writing, Jana Small Finance Bank, a lot of them in fact, and altogether this could be anywhere between 14,000-15,000 odd crore rupees. We will get down to understanding what's your view in some of the bigger IPOs that are coming up, but give us a sense of what do you feel investors should look out for in these upcoming IPOs, and is this an opportunity one should grab?
Yeah, I think Sakshi, normally if the secondary market does not do well, then it obviously has a rub-off effect on the primary markets also. So I think when you have such a lot of bunching of primary market issues, my simple advice is that you have got to be extremely selective, because normally the kind of pop-up listing which investors used to get once the stock used to get listed, I think this is unlikely to happen. In fact, today morning we saw IRM Energy getting listed at a discount to the offer price of 102 rupees. So I think, however good the company, if the market sentiment is bad, and if the market is weak, seeing such a large sell off, then I think most of these IPOs post listing are unlikely to offer very good returns. In fact, investors who apply for IPOs only for listing gains may not gain anything at all, because the market sentiment will play a very important role here. But yes, from a longer term perspective, there are some good companies which are offering shares. And I think rather than applying in the primary market, my advice is that if the market opens weak or the sentiment remains a little negative, you could get good companies at discounted prices. So that could be a good opportunity. But in the primary market, the bigger trigger and majority of the applications, from retail, from anchor, from most of the QIP investors, it is basically largely for the listing gains. So I think it's better to be a little bit careful here. And whenever the issues are bunched into a large number of issues, I think you need to be careful, because already supply of paper means a lot of liquidity would get further sucked out of the system. So that actually is also another negative factor which I think the markets should obviously look at very closely, and that is definitely not good for the market.
I'm very glad that you pointed out about the debut of IRM Energy that happened at a discount. I remember we were catering and we were talking about how earlier in the grey market or in the unlisted market there was a premium listing that was expected, and suddenly because of the kind of crash we have been witnessing in the markets over the last few days, it's actually happened at a discount of 5.5%. What does one extrapolate from this? In case the markets continue to reel under pressure, do the future IPOs also fear discounted or lackluster listing? No big bang listing expected, and therefore one should be extremely careful?
Yeah, definitely, Sakshi. See, I think wherever the merchant bankers can postpone the issue, they would obviously look at postponing their IPOs. But wherever the IPOs have already been launched, a lot of marketing roadshows have already got completed. I think in such IPOs, clearly the investor needs to take into account that he may not get a very bumper kind of listing. Like, for example, Mama Earth, is a very promising kind of play. But I think
Hmm.
in this kind of market, if the sentiment continues to be weak, then I would not be surprised that, it probably could get listed at the offer price or maybe even get listed below its offer price. And
Hmm.
interesting thing, Sakshi, which I would like to point out is, many companies in this list which you told me are basically pure OFS offers. Now, when the
Yes.
company gives you the pure OFS offer, it's actually a negative for the investors because the entire money goes into the pockets of the promoter. Blue Jet IPO is entirely OFS, Cello World is entirely OFS, and these are large issues. So, I think the markets would obviously look at them very closely because ultimately, whatever money comes in the company is always going to be given a little bit of premium by the markets.
Hmm. I'm glad that you pointed out about the OFS factor. In fact, the entire 2023 maximum number of IPOs that have come up so far, their OFS has been a bigger portion or complete OFS has been given at this point in time. Even for Mama Earth, a bigger chunk is from the selling shareholders through an OFS. Apart from the promoter holders and founders, Varun and Ghazal, we also have some marquee HNI names like Shilpa Shetty, exiting at this point in time with huge valuations. One is seeing that they have definitely made a lot of money while they'll be, exiting at this point in time. But the IPO opens at a time when the macro concerns are there, domestic concerns are there, and the company's own growth prospects are also under question amid the competitive intensities as well. So you did talk about Cello. Let's also talk about flare writing. Does that also have a similar kind of a concern for you?
Yeah, I think the company's business is quite attractive, but I think looking at the valuations, Sakshi, I would believe it's better to wait and watch because clearly in these kind of markets, to give
Hmm.
a very steep valuation will be
Sure.
slightly expensive. So I think most of these IPOs are good, but looking at the current market scenario, my sense is that probably just one or two could be worthwhile. In fact, Blue Jet has already got oversubscribed, so they have
Yeah.
got the money the investors. But I think the listing gains is going to be another crucial factor. Looking at IRM Energy's listing, I think I won't be surprised if the markets continue to remain under pressure, and which I think looks to be because the trend definitely seems to have been broken. We have now gone below 19,000, and if this selling continues for a couple of more days, then I think it's going to be tough for all these IPOs.
Okay. What about the financial names? Something like a Fed Bank Financial. Then we also have FinCare Microfinance, Jana Small Finance Bank as well. Are these financial names better off than these other companies?
Yeah, I think looking at the kind of prices of most of the PSU as well as the private sector banks now in the current scenario, I would believe that within the small finance bank categories now there are so many banks which are going to get listed. So there's a lot of competition which is expected. So both these banks which you mentioned are definitely good from a longer term perspective. But from a short term perspective, I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to give a very big upside for investors. So I think long term, yes, I think one can definitely look at the next 12 to 18 months a good upside, but in the very near term, one should not be disappointed if you see the share price below the offer price, at least in the very near term.
Okay. Another point that I wanted you to expound upon, which you mentioned briefly, is that looking at the current conditions, both macro and micro, and the current environment in the secondary markets, is it possible that some of these companies that had announced and were expected to hit the street before Diwali, they may now look at postponing their launch of their IPOs as well? And after SEBI approval, how long can they actually delay? What is the process like, and what is the rules and regulations? What do they say?
No, I think it is a catch-22 situation because if they postpone their issue beyond a particular level, maybe a week or two or maybe a month, then I think what will happen is they'll have to refile their application with SEBI, and that means there could be a very big delay, at least next 3 to 4 months. So I think
Okay.
companies are also in a catch-22 situation because refiling involves a lot of time. Market sentiment, obviously is going to be a key, decision. So there are some companies which will go ahead, they will take the risk, but there are some which could possibly wait because obviously post-listing gains are also very important for the promoters. If you start with a negative kind of performance right from day one, then I think it's a great amount of pressure, peer pressure for them to perform. So I would believe that refiling could be a possibility, but only for selective issues.
Okay. Any particular IPO that you are looking forward to in the run up to Diwali or maybe in the run up to this year end? Anything that you have been waiting for?
Yeah, I think one issue which market is keenly awaiting, and I think which will be grabbed quite heavily, is Tata Technologies, and secondly Haldiram. Haldiram is not yet announced, but Haldiram is a name which I think most of us know personally, and I think it's going to be a great franchise opportunity to participate in their long-term growth. And Tata Technologies, looking at the kind of headwinds in the IT market, maybe there could be a little bit of lull and caution by investors, but longer term, I think Tata Technologies is an IPO which is worth applying for the longer term. I think you could make a lot of money here.
All right, well, fair enough. Thank you so much, Mr. Gorakshaka, for being with us on the show and discussing the prospects of the IPOs hitting the streets, the strategies one should adopt, not rush in, but be very, very careful and choosy about the IPOs that are coming in, because the markets are in a somber mood right now, and the rub-off effect could also be seen in the IPO space. We're already seeing some lackluster listings happening right now, but going forward as well, in case the situation worsens, there could be either a delay in some of the IPOs that have been announced to hit before Diwali, and even if they hit on time, there could be a lackluster listing as well. So one should be very, very careful if one is only looking for a very short-term gain or a listing gain at this point in time. But for the long-term perspective, several of the companies do have a fundamentally strong backing. Tata Technologies is chosen as one of the preferred bets from the IPOs, upcoming IPO space by Avinash Korakshakar right here. Markets continue to reel under pressure, 264 points down in trade for the Nifty, 18,858 coming in. But we'll keep an eye out on how the markets really move from here on as well, and how long will this fall really continue in the markets. To stay with us on Business Today Television, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and also continue to engage with us on our other social media platforms to catch all the updates from the world of business and stock markets.
Indians are celebrating the festive season with Apple this year. According to